Ladies and gentlemen from the press, welcome to the press conference to the Chief Executive-elect. Now let's invite the Chief Executive-elect, Mr. Ho Yat-sen, to attend the press conference. Please pay attention to the following points when you ask questions. When you raise a question, please wait till you are told to before asking a question, and also please identify yourself. Also, each journalist can only ask one question, and each question shouldn't take up more than 2 minutes. I'm very happy to be able to meet all of you. So any question, please feel free to raise. Please, now you have taken a photo, and please move away from the central of the room to make some room. Please move backward after you've taken the photograph, because otherwise you are blocking those journalists who are trying to ask questions. All right, let's create some space first. So before I say start, then you can please be seated first. And all those who are taking photos, and once the photo is taken, please move away from the center of this room so that we can see journalists who raise their hands. So now we can start. The third row, the gentleman on a white shirt. Mr. Ho Yat-sen, I'm from Shanghai Yabou. I think a lot of us are concerned about after you assume office, what would be your team and what would be your choice for those of some undersecretaries. Now we are all concerned about the Greater Bay Area cooperation. So what would be your policy? What strategies do you have? Thank you very much. I would like to thank all those electoral committee members for the vote so that I can be the Chief Executive-elect. Of course, we still have one procedure. I still need to get approval from the Chief Executive so that I can be officially. Now I'm Chief Executive-elect. It's true that I need to prepare for my team. About the undersecretaries, I say I will do things step by step. I need to complete, well, now I need to rest for a day or two, but it's true that I need to start thinking about my team. I will listen to opinions from the community and listen to opinions from various circles, and that I would make choices for my team. So about Greater Bay region development, that as I've said, it creates lots of opportunities for us. Macau is part of Greater Bay region, which includes non-cities in Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong and Macau. So Macau is one of the 11 cities in the Greater Bay Area. We can base on our own intention of investment and invest in various places and various aspects and industries in the Greater Bay Area that include high-tech electronic devices, pharmaceutical. So there are lots of opportunities, but also Chinese medicine, aviation. And of course, if the other cities in the Greater Bay Area, they have their own advantages, and we also welcome them to come to Macau to invest. Right, third row, this lady in a beach shirt. Thank you. Please identify yourself. I'm from WAQ Daily. I am Xiaongai. Just now, some colleagues had already asked about the team. I think we're all concerned about that. For example, all the civil servants, they're also concerned who will be their boss. And as you were running on this chief executive, you probably already have some idea about who are the adequate helpers. So maybe you already have some idea what kind of persons you want to have for your team. Also, you had been the chair of the Legislative Assembly. You know lots of people. So probably you know the current secretaries. So you know whether they are suitable for you or not. Thank you very much for your question. I think you're still talking about the criteria. My criteria for choosing my team members. Well, you told, as you have said, I shouldn't actually identify directly, name these people now. And I believe that for the secretaries, they need to be clean and honest. They need to have the ability to execute, to implement policy. Third, they need to be able to communicate with the Macau public. That is what we need to do. Because our idea is the government is to provide service. And once the secretaries are chosen, I'll discuss with them about the details of the work. But please do give me some time, because before that, I didn't have time to think about that. Which one is good and which one is not good, the current secretaries, which one is suitable, I actually haven't thought about that. It's not just up to myself, it's not just my personal opinion. I need to consult opinions from various circles before I can make the decision. It's true that I have been working in the Legislative Assembly. I know these secretaries, the major officials very well. Of course, yes, I do have some idea about what they are like. But it's also important for me to listen to opinions from various circles. We want to fund capable people, clean and honest, and able to serve the Macau community. That's my criteria. Second row, the lady in blue. Thank you very much. I'm from Xinhua News Agency, Macau. My question is, now Macau is actively taking part in the development of the Greater Bay region to integrate Macau into the overall development of our nation. And also, the central government has already released some measures to facilitate Macau people, residents living on the mainland and working in the mainland. So is the Macau government going to release some plans, some measures to facilitate Macau residents living and working on the mainland? And actually, we have already done lots of things, including employment, healthcare, and schooling. We are working closely with mainland authorities to facilitate Macau residents working and living and going to school in the Greater Bay region. As we step up with integration of the Greater Bay region with the mainland, we have been constantly adjusting our policy, and the mainland authority has been constantly adjusting her policy. We will actively seize the challenges, the opportunities. And for example, Hengqian Island has got a space that probably will create some space for Macau people to live there in retirement. The fourth row. The lady in a blue jacket. I'm from Hong Kong Cable TV. As you talk about the number of votes, you gained 392 votes, while Mr. Fernando Choi gained 388 votes. So are you happy with the support you have got from the Electoral Committee? And talking about development of Greater Bay Area. As part of the Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong, there's recent incidents in Hong Kong. So after you have assumed office, if the situation in Hong Kong, the turbulence in Hong Kong continues, what are you going to do? Are you going to make relevant adjustment to Macau's policy? First of all, as you mentioned that I gained 392 votes, and I feel I express my gratitude. It's not something that I can be over the top. I still need to be down to earth. I feel grateful. And maybe I can see that as I gain support about my campaign platform has gained wide support. So, and now I need to actively implement what I've said in a campaign platform. So having a large number of votes, and that in a way is a challenge to me as well. It prompts me to work even harder. Greater Bay region, we have to develop turbulence, typhoon, storm. These are temporary. The situation in Hong Kong will be temporary. It has affected Macau as well. For example, tourism. For example, in Hong Kong, Hong Kong's tourism has been seriously affected. In Macau, we have already discussed with people in the tourist industry. Macau, yes, the turbulence in Hong Kong, and that certainly will affect Macau. But very importantly, we need to do our own work well. And we need to work with the other non-cities. Just because of one city having problems, and that is temporary, development is the trend. I'm from TVB. My name is Wang Weixi. Before, you had already answered this question. One is about wealth partaking scheme. The other that is about gaming concessionaire. Next year's your policy address. Will you continue the scheme of wealth partaking scheme? And the amount is 10,000. Are you going to increase that, or are you going to maintain 10,000? My answer to wealth partaking scheme, I would say that is about wealth sharing wealth. We share the wealth we have gained with the Macau public, and it's been going on for many years. And that is only for Macau. I'm not saying whether other regions should do the same. This 10,000 patakas is actually helped the grassroots residents. Maybe not really that useful for middle class. But if we stop it, or if we do mean tests, that would involve lots of administrative work, and that is costly as well. So we need to look at that. I cannot see lots of changes to this scheme. And the reason the government is still the same. The change of government, actually, Macau, as SAR, has already got a history of 20 years. So some current good policy we will continue. Mr. Choi Sai-on has already served 2 terms of office. So according to the basic law, he cannot serve another term, and that is why I am elected to chief executive. It doesn't mean the good policies we will continue. About the gaming concessions, that we need to wait till we have amended the laws if we need to make changes. The lady in the back. Mr. Ho, I'm Lei Haoman from WAQ Daily, and I want to follow up a previous question about the 5 undersecretaries. You say that you cannot name them. If I asked you to name them, would you? Currently, there are 5 major officials, the secretaries. Would there be any chance that some of them can stay, or all of them will stay, or you are going to completely change your team? Are you going to choose your team from among the current civil service, or are you going to choose outside the current civil service? And about Macau people's quality of life. So how are you going to improve their quality of life? And actually, I've already answered this question. As I said, give me some time, and I cannot name them. I will not name them today. Give me some time. I still need to make careful consideration. It isn't right that now I say who is suitable, who is not suitable. Whether I'm going to change the whole team, or whether I'm going to keep some of them, or I'm going to keep all of them, I am not in the position of answering this question. Well, you are very good at receiving information. Have I ever talked about my future team? No, you know that I haven't talked about it at all, and that is my personality. Before I'm ready, before I'm in the position of doing so, I wouldn't say anything. So that today I've been elected, I'm the chief executive elect. It's true that it's time that I should start thinking about it. For the time being, at the moment, yes, I need to start thinking about it. I would listen to opinions. Secondly, the second question, and how to improve, how to guarantee the livelihood of the 650,000 residents of Macau. I said I can give no guarantee. No government can guarantee the livelihood and happiness of all the people. However, I will dedicate myself. I will do my best to improve the livelihood, to improve the quality of life of the Macau people. Within my term of office, which is 5 years, I will do my very best to fulfill my promise, the promise that I made as running the election. And some of them need to be implemented step by step. For example, housing. I cannot solve this problem within 1 year. It's very important that I need to make the Macau people know my vision, the blueprint. It's not that within 1 year or even within 5 years I can complete all the work. That is not possible. There will also constantly encounter problems, but we will also constantly try to solve problems. And once we have the goal, we will march forward towards the goal. The Portuguese journalist. Could you hear me? Mr. Hoyasing, first of all, I would like to give you many congratulations. We have already listened to lots of analysis. Also, we have heard opinions from various circles. And some say that maybe we are already straying away from the principle of one country, two systems. Maybe, but for the time being, you still haven't actually responded to this question about one country, two system, high degree of autonomy. Now that you are chief executive elect, how would you comment on the issue of how would you comment on this question about straying away from one country, two system, or adhering to this question of one country, two systems? The other question that I asked is about environmental pollution, and what are you going to do to improve the environment of Macau? To make sure that we adhere to one country, two system, high degree of autonomy. I will abide by the Macau Basic Law in my administration. Maybe you say that as I was running the election, I didn't say much about environmental protection. Actually, maybe you didn't attend all the sessions. I have done it, actually. And you have talked, one thing is recycling, is waste recycling. We need to separate waste. In many countries, they actually export their rubbish. They export their waste. Hong Kong is doing that. The Philippines is doing that. A so-called protecting their environment is to export their waste, export their rubbish. It's not that they are processed their waste. What they have done, well, they might have separated their waste and then still they export it to other countries. They protect their own environment, but then they have polluted the other countries' environment. That shouldn't be the way of doing it. Because in Macau, we are facing this problem, environmental protection. And now Macau each year has got arrival of 35 million visitors. Now when they drink bottled water, how many empty bottles, the plastic bottles, have they generated? What are we going to do with these empty plastic bottles? Are we going to export them to other countries? I think our own rubbish, we should process them ourselves. We will try to educate the public and try to encourage them to try to stop them, persuade them to stop using non-reusable utensils. We need to, say for example, plastic bottles and so on. For example, instead of buying bottled water, we should boil tap water at home. They're saying, could we send our rubbish to the Chinese mainland? No, we can't. And how about if we send them to the Philippines? No, we can't. So some countries say that they protect the environment, they are environmental friendly. That is, well, actually they are hypocritical. I have been working in environmental protection industry for 30 years. I know what it means. The lady in the back. I am from TDM. I'm Yuan Shengqing. I have several questions. After you assume office, what will be your priority, and what would be the main challenges? And this year, as you run the election, you open a Facebook page. You responded to questions the Macau public posted to your Facebook page. Are you going to continue this practice, to continue to listen and communicate with the Macau public after you assume office? Will you continue to open Facebook page on social media to collect opinion, for example, listen to opinions from young people? First of all, I would say the priority is to increase the efficiency in our administration and the public service. That would be our main challenge. As I was running the election, I listened to opinions, and I understand that lots of people are concerned about the efficiency of our public service. So that would be my priority. Once I assume office, I will do investigation, and that would be my role. And I'll try to find the root of the problem and try to seek solution. The second question is what would be the main challenges, what I find the most difficult. I would say renovating the old district. For example, we try to renovate the old district, one building, as long as there's one member say no, I will not agree, then that cannot be implemented. However, it's difficult, but we must do it. We cannot drag on even further. For example, some old buildings, if they are not renovated, it will be dangerous. The other thing is whether I will continue to communicate with the Macau public through social media. Yes, I very much hope that we can continue to collect opinion from the Macau public, and that will only do good to the government. How I'm going to do it, and I still haven't decided, but I would say under the basic law, we need to have effective communication with the Macau public. Thank you. The lady in gray. I'm from TDM. My name is Kong Waiman. As running the election, and you were at lots of consultation sessions, and you listen to lots of opinions. Would that are you going to make adjustment to your campaign platform according to the opinions you have collected? Yes, it's true. And that 2 weeks I almost every week non-stop go to different regions and discuss. I went to market, I went to the old district, I visited institutions, social services, those for handicapped people, and so on. Maybe social services is not really something that I'm very familiar with. That is my weakness. I need to learn more about it. I need to find out what kind of people need to be included in the government's welfare system. Example, before we talk about elderly people. In Macau, we have over 70,000 residents who are over the age of 60, and also some mentally handicapped people, and they represent 2% of the population. And Lifeline, every year we receive over 10,000 calls. So they need people to speak to them when they were facing crisis. Macau is a city where the casinos run 24 hours. So certainly young people living in such a country, they will face all kinds of issues as well. We need to give them support. And we agree that the Macau government has been doing well in social services. Still, there would be room for improvement. For example, when it comes to our social services, our public services, maybe some of the units do not really understand what so-called social enterprises are. They will think that they are just like any just like any private enterprises. As a result, they do not get enough support. And this time, I said actually get to speak to various circles, various levels in the community. I gained lots of information about my campaign platform, whether I'm going to change it, whether I'm going to make any adjustment. No, I am not. That is my campaign platform. I cannot change it just because I hear something. But after I assume office, I will still need to work out my policy address. So campaign platform, it is there already. What adjustment I'm going to make is going to be in my policy address, released in the capacity of chief executive. The lady in white. Yes, you may stand up. Would you stand up, please? I'm Lam Ka Wai, Macau Daily. It is about infrastructure. In the consultation sessions, as we understand that after the Typhoon Haikui, there are lots of infrastructure issues that need to be solved. However, not much progress has been made. The other issue is you're not very optimistic about economic performance this year and next year. However, now the revenue is already over 100 billion. But anyway, have you got any idea about how to prevent economic downturn? This is say infrastructure for preventing disaster. The current government has already started various projects related to infrastructure in response to natural disaster. The design and everything have completed. Just the construction has not completed. after Typhoon Hato, the issue of preventing disaster in response to disaster, this infrastructure issue has emerged. Yes, we'll continue that. To stimulate domestic demand, yes, we need to do that for the time being. About public housing, economy housing. If we need to increase the units of economic housing, then we need to enlarge our bidder budget. Within the year, so the year we need to build the social housing, then the budget becomes larger. But the year when we sell economy housing, then we get that year suddenly we get income. So actually, economy housing is not just its investment. So the balance sheet, whether it's the budget framework, there are lots of details. Maybe we should work out a loan system, especially economy housing, because economy housing are not government property, are not government asset. They will become private assets. So because now we are using the government's bidder. For example, the one in Kowloon, the social housing in Kowloon, Sep Pai Wan, the year when we sold the economy housing, suddenly the government got huge revenue. But when it comes to our balance sheet, that becomes there is some fluctuation because the year when we build economy housing, government budget go up. However, when we sell economy housing, the government gets income. Bidder should be completely government investment. However, economic housing, I suggest we change it into a kind of loan, government loan. And each year, the bidder budget, each year approved by Legislative Assembly should be around 15 billion to 20 billion. And maybe some of the government units, in order to make sure that they expect a discount in budget, so they make their budget will be more than what they need. So that result in low education rate. Now our budget framework need to be more realistic. And now the budget system becomes more rigid. You cannot move fund between different items. In the past, making the bidder budget large and then can transfer funds between items, but now that is not allowed anymore. So after the budget framework was released, was amended, we make sure that budget for one item is for that item only. For example, budget for light rail cannot be transferred to other infrastructure projects. The amended budget framework law does not allow that. I hope in the future when we come to public housing, we need to separate budget between economy housing and social housing. Social housing is government budget, but economy housing eventually that is not government asset. Ferry terminal and so on, these are government assets. Economy housing in the end is not going to be government asset that will be sold to individuals and become private property. This gentleman I'm from Ngoi Mun Daily. Talking about the votes that you got 392 votes out of 400, and that seems to be very good. However, out there are 300,000 eligible voters who are not eligible to vote for the chief executive. So do you think that you have really gained wide support from the Macau public? In the future, you'll be chief executive, so you'll make yourself accountable to the central government. Your role will be different from that of president chair of the Legislative Assembly. So does it mean that in the future you will do whatever the central government tell you to do? First of all, for the time being, we need to respect the current electoral law. What you ask is not something within my capability. Whether I have gained wide enough support from the Macau public is not something I can do. And what we have seen, that is the opinion expressed, the intention expressed by the current members of the electoral committee. So it doesn't mean that also for me, I would not be, say, in order to be elected, I would go and please the members of the electoral committee. I won't do that. I will tell the truth. I will say, I will be myself. I will tell what I think. I will say what I think. I will communicate with the electoral committee. I will communicate with the Macau public about the regime, how to set up a system to make sure that all the residents get to vote for about universal vote, universal suffrage, universal vote, one person, one vote for chief executive election. That is not within my capability. Talking about the responsibility of the chief executive, do I only make myself accountable to the central government? No, that is not. This understanding is not right. The chief executive of the Macau Special Administrative Region is accountable to the Macau public, all the residents of Macau. This hat I wear. I need to make myself accountable to the Legislative Assembly of Macau SAR. I need to make myself accountable to the people of Macau. The lady in the back. I'm Hong Kong Now TV. A few days ago, some members of the Macau public applied to hold protests and New Senado, and that was not approved. And after you become chief executive, how are you going to protect Macau people's right of demonstration, right, freedom of speech? And just now you talk about keeping adequate channel to communicate with the Macau public. So how, after you become chief executive, if the Macau public really voice very strong opinion against certain policy, are you going to stop implementing those policies? Talking about the freedom to protest, to demonstrate, why the security forces of Macau did not approve it? They have their consideration, and if the applicant disagree, it can actually appeal. We administer Macau in accordance with law, and it has been the application has been turned down, and they can appeal, and they can go and protect. They can. So it's not that just one authority turned down the application. There is a mechanism for appeal. Secondly, in the future, if the Macau public are very strongly against certain policy, and I think for any kind of policy, before it's released, I need to have adequate communication and publicity. But it doesn't mean, so we must explain everything very clearly before it's released. I will listen to opinion. And actually, I had been surrounded, even at the Legislative Assembly, I've been surrounded by people who are against certain issues. And I am able to communicate and respond. There's that lady in the back. I am from TDM, Portuguese radio. have two questions. Before, the Macau public wanted to hold a demonstration, and they said that the basic human right was denied. The decision of the Macau police was also controversial. In the future, if the Macau public, do you think that there is any room for improvement in relation to the police work? You also talk about cooperation of different regions in the Greater Bay Area. Talking about the extradition law and other regulations related to protest demonstration, do you think there is any room for improvement? Well, actually, I had already answered this question. The Macau people's freedom of speech, freedom of association, and in order to protest, that has been protected. We have never denied, we have never deprived anybody of their human right. And the second question related to Greater Bay Area. At the previous press conference, I had already explained very clearly. Please go and read relevant law about extradition law. We do not have such a law. So any Macau resident return to Macau, even if they have no way we will send this deport this person to, we will not deport our own residents to anywhere. I'm from Macau Business. My name is Wong Ga-Zeng. I still want to ask this question related to gaming concession. And this is a very important work. It's also very sensitive. In the last 2 weeks, looks like there hasn't been any. You didn't actually look at your itinerary in the last 2 weeks. You didn't actually meet with the gaming companies. Can you actually indicate a clearer direction related to gaming concessionaire? Otherwise there will be rumors and speculation. Let's say in the last 2 weeks, I didn't openly meet any member from the casino industry. Actually, any kind of any public activity, they are all organized by my electoral office, and they're all informed. We always inform the media. And we have never, but certain entity, if they do not, or maybe they have met us, it's up to them whether they, or even in private, it's up to them whether they would release the information to the public. That is not up to us. So if we received visitors, it is up to the visitor to release the news. Yes, it's true that we have communicated with casino companies, but concerning when we are going to start the tendering procedure and so on, if you ask me whether our concern is whether the concessionaires are going to take on more social responsibility in Macau to help Macau's SME, and these are the main content of our communication with the casino companies that we have met. Whether it's sensitive or not, and it very much depends on what the law is about, the amended law. If it's written in the law, nothing is sensitive anymore. Whatever that is written in the law, you can do it. Whatever is not written in the law, you can't do it. Mr. Ho, I am Macau Asia Cable TV. Earlier, you had talked about importing talents into Macau. I said that for the time being, Macau does not have the ability or not in the condition of retaining talents in Macau. The other issue that's about the quota for imported employees. Are you going to tighten the rules, or are you going to make it more flexible? because in a community, especially from the employers' circle, the employers want to make it more flexible, and while employees want you to tighten it. Talking about talents, yes, we must retain the real talents in Macau, those who can empower Macau's development. Macau has lots of talents. For example, dealers. No country has got that many talented dealers in Macau, like Macau. However, come to high tech, we don't have enough, and we need to gain consensus within the community. Importing some high tech talents that is going to empower our economic development and economic diversification. The other thing is how to define talents. What are talents? And what kind of talents we need? And that is about talents. About imported employees. Macau already has a large number of imported employees. It's almost 1-to-1. That include domestic helper. That include they are in many different industries, many different sectors. And we do have a labor law concerning imported labor. And we do have a bottom line. Whether we're going to tighten it or we're going to make it more flexible, it depends on our need. For example, if we need to accelerate our construction industry. Say our residents want to have new housing to move in, then maybe we need to import more laborers in the construction industry. Or maybe some sectors do not need that many imported laborers, then we'll reduce. Also, maybe some of the jobs will be replaced by robots, so that the solution would not be from imported laborers. So it very much depends on the actual need. SMEs do have their difficulties. So when you go to a cafe, you wait for so long before you are served. So we need to seek a balance. It's very difficult to make things perfect, but we are doing our best. This gentleman wearing a tie in the back. From English News, TDM English News. You mentioned earlier in the free trade zone of Shanghai. Have you communicated with Hengqin Island Authority or with the central government? You mentioned that in the future you very much hope that you say that you need to promote infrastructure. And how about in neighboring regions? How are you going to promote this about free trade zone? In recent years, it's not just Shanghai has started new policy related to free trade zone. Shenzhen has also started similar policy for free trade zone. And I believe in the near future, Hengqin Island will have this kind of policy. The current government probably is already doing all this communication. And talk about our waters. The central government has already approved the land reclamation for the airport. And all these are to support Macau's the airport expansion, the reclamation project for the airport, and all these are to enhance Macau's capacity as the tourist destination. Whether we are going to step up with our infrastructure ought to be implemented step by step. So we need to look at our priority. For example, economy housing, and that will be our priority. building tens of thousands of social, economy housing units. That cannot be done within a year. We need to have adequate planning. We need to work out our priority. About those who are not on the top of priority, we need to make adequate plan. We cannot try to do everything together. We also need to look at sustainable development. We do things step by step. The lady in the fourth row. I'm from Simon Daily. Just now you mentioned, we say that you haven't decided who are going to be the major officials, whether you're going to change the team for the next government. You have also mentioned your criteria, and one of them is they are able to listen to the public. Are you saying that the current officials are not very good at listening to public opinions? And currently, we also have various consultation committees. Are you going to improve for the next government? Are you going to improve the consultation mechanism? But just what I say, I want them to be able to communicate with the public. I also mentioned clean and honest. It doesn't mean that the current major officials are not clean and honest. I also said that I want to be clean and honest. It doesn't mean that the current officials are not clean and honest. I mentioned this direction, and that is my idea. They need to be clean and honest. They need to be capable. They are able to communicate with the public. I said that being able to communicate with the public is to make sure that the policy that we try to promote, they are down to earth. They will be supported by the people, so that we will not try to release any policy that people do not understand or people do not support. And I think the Civil and Municipal Affairs Institute had already and something about infrastructure. We also hope that more people would take part in relevant work. We hope that through consulting public opinions widely, we will work out policies that people understand and people support. The lady in white. I am from Lotus Cable TV. As you're running the election, we ask you lots of questions, including gaming concessions. You said because you haven't been elected yet, and so you're not in the situation, in the position of answering the question. Now that you're elected, have you worked out a timetable, say when you are going to answer certain questions? And now, as you're running the election, you have understood some of your weaknesses. So maybe you're also not very familiar with the education session. So after you assume office, how are you going to overcome your weaknesses? No one is good at everything. Everyone would have weaknesses. For example, you are from the media. Maybe you are familiar in one area, but you're not familiar in covering other areas. As maybe about legislation, policy, these are my strengths. Social services, as such, I need to improve. I need to know more. So that is why I need to investigate. I need to learn about education. I know the budget. I need the overall budget. So anyone has ever told you how much we spend on a student in Macau each year? I know the overall. I don't know the details. It's true that now we have, in education, there are lots of issues. For example, we have lots of schools. However, we do not have enough number of school children to fill the schools. And maybe you don't know how many babies are born, how many newborns each year in Macau. I know, maybe you don't know. And now our birth rate is 0.9. And to really replace the population, to maintain the population. The birth rate needs to be 2.1, and now we are only 0.9. I do have, yes, I am a modest person. Maybe I could say I'm weak at everything. Well, I can say I know certain things and I don't know enough about certain things. It's true that when I was running the election, there were certain questions I couldn't answer. And now when I'm going to be able to answer, it depends on what I will answer, whatever question I can answer. That lady wearing glasses. Good afternoon. I'm from TDM Portuguese. Just now, some of my colleagues asked me the question related to the freedom of speech. Some people say that there had never been so much restriction involving freedom, the freedom of speech as it is in Macau now. So what comments do you have? About major officials, for the time being, we have 5 secretaries. Do you think 5, that this number, should it be maintained the same, or should it be increased, or should it be decreased? And I experienced the colonial era. I also experienced the time after establishment of Macau SAR. If you ask people of my age, before Macau returned to China, during Portuguese rule, did we have lots of freedom of speech? I have to say that under one country, 2 systems, there is nothing that are not allowed, that we are not allowed to talk about. The newspapers can say about everything. So talking about the lack of restriction on freedom of speech, no, and that will be your own bias. Well, unless there is a problem with translation. Within my generation, I have 40 years experience. I lived 40 years of my life under Portuguese administration. I am very clear, and I can see the very clear contrast. After Macau returned to motherland, we enjoy a lot more freedom of speech. Maybe you are young. You don't know what things were like before 20 years ago. For those of us who have breathed the air 20 years ago, we know what things were like in the past. So it says since Macau returned to China, there have been more and more restriction on freedom of speech. That is not true. About the number of major officials, we are not going to change. I will maintain the same number because during Portuguese administration, we had 7 undersecretaries. And now we have 5, and I have no intention of changing this number. Thank you. The gentleman in white. I'm from Macau Daily. We constantly say we need to adequately diversify Macau's economy. How are you going to comment on the economic diversity of Macau? And how traditional industries are going to upgrade themselves to adapt to new situation? Talking about economic diversity, if you look at the statistics from the authority, different sectors take different market share. It's true that gaming industry represents 52%, and then we also finance industry. We have the real estate, retail, government sector. So if you look at the statistics, yeah, I'm clear about the figures. How about traditional industries? It's true that manufacturing is declining. Manufacturing, before establishment of Macau SAR, the 3 pillars are manufacturing, gaming, and tourism. These were the three pillars. And sometimes there have been time when manufacturing revenue exceed that of gaming industry. However, in the last 20 years, there are lots of changes that includes China joined WTO, and then we lost our textile quota. And factories and our factories, the shareholders, the factory owners are moving their factories to other places, to Southeast Asia, to the mainland. And how are we going to revive Macau's manufacturing industry? We have been doing work. We have been working on it. So the China Chamber of Commerce organized a trip to Japan to look at their food industry. We try to import some more advanced equipment so that Macau can play a more important role in, for example, food product safety. So how to improve our traditional industry, and that is a very important work. That's one of our priorities. And talents is also very important as we talk about. So if we can introduce some high-tech talents to Macau, and that is also going to empower Macau's manufacturing industry. So we need to attract talents that's going to help to diversify Macau's economy. Thirdly, that's the land resources. We suffer from a shortage of land resources. For example, pharmaceutical companies, they try to set up factory in Macau, we don't have the land. So if we can get a kind of exclave like Hengqin campus, University of Macau, and that will be wonderful. So that is also going to diversify Macau's economy. The gentleman in the back. The second, I'm from Hong Kong Daily. First of all, congratulations on being elected to the 5th Chief Executive of Macau SAR. In the next 5 years, you'll be, you say, Big Brother number 1. Yes, you are Big Brother number 1. So in the next 5 years, how are you going to lead Macau? Also, you say you will openly, honestly face the challenges of Macau. And some would say Macau has got lots of very difficult issues to tackle. So do you have any solution to these problems? Can you at least indicate the main direction? As the Chief Executive elect, I should answer your question. How I feel? Yes, about how I feel, there's only one word: pressure. I do feel pressure. Work pressure. Secondly, what can I bring to the Macau community in the next 5 years? First of all, I would like to thank all of you for your support, and also for friends from the media who reported what I say at various communication sessions. I want to work out a blueprint. For example, the housing issue. The housing property prices rocket high. Social housing, the threshold is not suitable for most. We need to look at those stuck in the middle, those who are too rich to get support but too poor to be independent. And now we have the support from the central government. We are allowed to do land reclamation. We hope we can give young people and the middle class a blueprint so that they can see the future, a future about the housing, so that they will not perpetually suffer from the high property prices. Maybe now property prices has gone down a little bit. Some say now we cannot afford it, but 2 years later, the property prices will be even higher, even more unaffordable. If you look at the curve of the property market, the overall, sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up, but the overall trend is up. We hope that we can reach consensus. What would be the blueprint in terms of housing that everyone can agree? The second one is healthcare. We have done investigation for people over 65 and for children under 18, where they are well taken care of. However, some old, especially elderly people, find the process too troublesome. For example, they need to go and see a doctor. They got a hospital clinic appointment every half a year, and maybe some find it so troublesome to constantly need to go to see a doctor. Maybe we need to improve. Maybe we need to increase the number of doctors taking care of elderly people, or maybe we can try to provide one-stop service for elderly people. We need to improve a specialist service in our healthcare. The other issue is probably we are not giving enough support and care to people between 18 and 65. They are not covered by the free medical care of the government. So how to give support to these people through health insurance? So now we need to look at now between 18 and 65, those who suffer from say danger, for example, cancer, mental disease, they are covered as well. As those who need to go abroad to receive medical care abroad and they are not covered by the government, these are all gaps. And some prefer to go to the United States to see a doctor, and these are not taken care of by the government. But in Macau, it's true that say cancer, this serious disease, they are covered. But there are gaps. There are rooms for improvement. There are gaps. For example, quality of service need to be improved. We need to look. Now we have population of 650,000 population, so there isn't much room for specialists to develop. So gradually, we need to solve the problem. Education. We are already providing 15 years compulsory education. Even Macau residents who are living in the Chinese mainland, the children get support as well. Their schooling in mainland gets support as well. And now even university is heavily subsidized. Say student from the 4-year university education undergraduate only need to pay 100,000 baht. So I think we need to do better than the other regions. In many ways, we are doing better than other countries, the other regions. Transport, but that is really an issue to tackle, especially during holidays, especially during rush hours. So that I would try. We will look into that. We will investigate. We need to look at the function of various facilities, and we try to coordinate. Transport is a main issue. It's, of course, quite a lot of problems, but there are human factors in this problem. For example, lots of young families are living in Taipa, but most schools are in Macau Peninsula. Therefore, these families need to, the school run involves crossing the Macau Taipa Bridge. So there are human factors there. And everyone, because the desirable schools are in central Macau on the peninsula. And that is understandable. Now the birth rate is 0.9, so we only have less than one child between two persons. And so, of course, when they have so few children and they want to give their children the very best, they want to send their children to the best school. So in the morning, the rush hour, and parents are doing school run. They're all driving their cars and taking their children from Taipa to Macau to go to school, instead of going to school nearby. And typhoon as well. Definitely, when typhoon signal number 8 is hoisted, that of course, well, there's always guarantee traffic congestion. But building more roads, when you are building the road, they will also cause, until the construction, there's also road construction, there is traffic jam. But once the new roads are built, and it will ease up the situation. I'm from Shanghai Radio. You mentioned Shanghai innovative area. So do you have any plan to give Macau more communication and cooperation with the mainland? What you mentioned is an example. The example in Shanghai, yes, we certainly want to create more opportunity for exchange with the mainland. So the Yangtze Delta certainly is a place where we can learn from. I very much hope that there will be more opportunities for Pearl River Delta and the Yangtze River Delta to communicate. Shanghai is a city that's developing very rapidly, the same with Shenzhen. So around Macau, there are also quite good examples, and certainly the next government will try to create even more opportunities for this kind of exchange. The gentleman in yellow. I'm Chen Gazong. If you look at your campaign platform, you will streamline administrative procedure. You also say that there are too many gokzheng, director of units. So are you going to streamline the administrative structure? And are you going to streamline the civil service? Yes, certainly. I would bring even further. I will bring the administrative reform even further. Whether I'm going to reduce the number of government units, and I can't answer the question now. I need to do investigation. And also, we need to look the current law. We need to have the regulation. We need to have the law first, and then we act in accordance with law. I cannot just say now, I need to get rid of which units, I need to increase which unit. It is administrative law. We need to look at all the relations between different units. And we need to find out why there is a lack of efficiency. We need to find out the real cause for the lack of efficiency before we act. So we need to establish the law, and then we act in accordance with law to give solution. And whether we are going to recruit more civil servants. This year, the quota is 5,000. And as I've said I said that I will increase 8,000. So the civil service after the increase will be 38,000. And I think this is about the ceiling, whether we are going to recruit more. This year we recruit 500, and maybe next year we will recruit more, because every year there will be some members in civil service who will retire. And once they retire, of course, we need to recruit to replace them. Maybe the total number will increase. We have to see whether the increase is reasonable. The purpose, whether to increase or decrease, the purpose is to enhance efficiency and to serve the Macau public better. Civil servants, definitely there would be movement in the turnover and the civil service because some will retire and then the retired one will be replaced. The lady in the back. Mr. He, I'm from Central TV, CCTV. First of all, many congratulations. My question is, as Macau is going to celebrate its 20th anniversary, under one country, two systems, high degree of autonomy and protecting national sovereignty and security, and look at the backdrop of Greater Bay Area development, what are the main challenges and opportunities of Macau? First of all, about national security. I think various governments of Macau have been doing very well. The constitution of PRC has bestowed on us the responsibility about protecting national security. We have Article 23 that are for the protection of national sovereignty and national security. One Belt and Road initiative, and that is very good support for that that gives us lots of opportunity. The Maritime Silk Road, Macau has got a long history of being part of this Maritime Silk Road. And whether it's at the government level or non-government level, we have lots of such. We are part of this Maritime Silk Road. And we will certainly actively take part in this Belt and Road initiative. And the Legislative Assembly, as we have received, say, general councils and delegations from other countries to talk about the Belt and Road initiative. The Greater Bay Area, the lots of infrastructure, I wouldn't say infrastructure is a strength of Macau. It isn't. But once the infrastructure in the Greater Bay Area develop, we will benefit from it. Our tourism will benefit from it. The lady in pale blue jacket from Macau Dakpo. My question is, are you going to have a discussion? Are you going to meet with the new chief executive? Are you going to exchange opinion with the current team? Yes, of course I have to, because now I am going to build my team. Then definitely I need to communicate. I need to learn from the current chief executive. And that's got to do with, and I will only start doing that on the 20th of October. The gentleman in check shirt. I'm from Omun Yaobo. My question is about the light rail. It's well over budget and as a long delay. The current government says the route linking Bordergate to Barra is supposed to be completed in 2013. So do you have any confidence? Do you have any? Are you confident that the route from Bordergate to Barra will be completed by 2023? And then from Zone A to Zone E, light rail. You say if there is consensus in the community, that it will be implemented. This eastern route, the current government, and also the information from the auditing authority, it involves crossing the sea. The construction cost is estimated to exceed 20 billion. Are you confident that within the term of office of the next government, you say, first of all, there ought to be consensus within the community. Will the next government have some measures? Are you confident that the next government will be able to implement the construction of the eastern route of light rail, which is from Zone A to Zone E, involving crossing the sea? As for whether the route, the line linking Border Gate to Barra, yes, that will have to be completed within my term of office. It will have to be completed. And as for light rail, whether it's such a big investment, I have indicated in the consultation session. If we can complete the line that link Border Gate to the Barra, and that will cost 15.5 billion. The construction of the Barra station cost 4.5 billion. And purchasing relevant equipment, that costs 3.6 billion. Our maintenance, the factory, costs 3.7 billion. The remaining 4.8 billion. And we constructed the railway with the length of 9.3 kilometers. So it means that each kilometer, the construction cost is 500 million Partakas. So to construct 1 km, it should be 10.7 billion. And to making the line longer, it's not going to cost that much. Now, on average, each kilometers railway, the construction cost is around 500 million Partakas. The calculation, I do not, but the way you can work out the construction cost of the Eastern Line A, Zone A to Zone E as 20 billion. If you say your estimation is not correct, I think the construction of the new line, the Eastern Line, I estimate it should be around 30 billion Partakas. If you look at Hong Kong, the tunnel, and just to linking the Eastern Corridor, they paid 30 billion, and the construction duration was about 10 years. I still think light rail is very important. Putting public transport first, the real solution will be light rail. Light rail will generate no traffic jam. Currently, our public transport completely depends on buses, but light rail will have no traffic jam, and that will be the real solution. And Wang Xiaoying, TDM. I want to follow up on the question of light rail. You constantly say that the initial plan is you say you need to construct the Eastern Line linking Zone A and Zone E. But before, we also, in the initial plan, I also say that the light rail should go past Sai Wan Lake, Nam Wan Lake. So are you just choosing something easy to do? And earlier, you also said that there are some worries related to our economic prospect. And after you assume office, in case we encounter economic downturn, and do you have any measures in mind that can prevent social turbulence? I say the Eastern Line linking Zone A and Zone E, and thus the plan is proposed by the current government. And as for the line that go past Sai Wan Lake, Nam Wan Lake, where to set the railway station? For example, if you want to set up a railway station or the railway will go past residential area, there would be lots of controversy. Why we put the Eastern Line as a priority? I'm not excluding other possibilities, but I say the priority will be Eastern Line linking Zone A and Zone E. About your second question, social stability is very important. Our own airport is running very smoothly, although there is this incident in Hong Kong. Macau, for the time being, is stable. We have our airport. We have the Zhuhai Macau Hong Kong Bridge. About measures, in case we encounter economic downturn in Hong Kong, they're implementing that. For example, some hotels, they're already making their employees take no pay leave. But Macau is stable. I'm from East Dong Zhaohan. Just now you say lots of administration can only be implemented, lots of policy can only be implemented after the law is passed. And you had been chairman of Legislative Assembly for a long time, and now your role has been switched. So once the role has been switched, you are worried that the legislation becomes a black hole that sucks you in. Yes, legislation takes time. You are right. My experience as a chair of Legislative Assembly, I can tell you some of the laws, some of the legislation does not involve writing a law from scratch. So sometimes just a line or two. Maybe just adjusting a line or two that already can solve problem in our administration. I can tell you, legislation is my strength. I had worked in the field for 20 years in the mainland, and I worked as the chair of Legislative Assembly in Macau for 10 years. I understand how legislation is done. Not all the laws take a long time. Writing a law from scratch to the time when it's passed by Legislative Assembly takes about 2 years. However, if it's only about making adjustment to certain articles, and that will not take very long. We will go for something. We will look at our priority. And I believe and also hope that my colleagues at the Legislative Assembly would work with me for our common goal, that is to serve the Macau community. The last question. The lady is blonde. There are imported labors in Macau. So it say that Macau's birth rate is low. Could we allow foreign employees working in Macau, their children gain Macau residency? No, we cannot. Low birth rate, that is true. And that has got to do with the fact that quite a lot of our young people are dealers. They work in the casino and they work shifts. And that also contributes to the decline in our birth rate. And also divorce rate is climbing in recent years according to Women's Association. So once divorce rate go up, birth rate decline, and people are less inclined, less willing to have children. That also contributes to the low birth rate. working shifts. Lots of young people are working in casinos and working shifts, and that contributes to low birth rate. In the long run, it also has to do with very high property prices. So therefore, many think that, right, if I have more than one child, I will need a bigger apartment. I think when we make adjustment to various factors in the community in Macau, I hope that our demographic structure will change. Thank you. I'm from London, Mui Tai. If we review, if we look at Hong Kong, the chief executive Lim Jianguo, when he's running election, she made promise if the mainstream public opinion does not support the leader is not an effective leader. And now that you are elected, you say in the future, when you set up your new team, you will listen to public opinion when you choose your major officials. In the future, if your secretaries are going to would release some policy or have some practice that go against public opinion, are you going to fire them? Well, as chief executive-elect, I'm not really in the good position to answer. The other question about my promise about the major official in my team who failed to execute policy. I am confident that I will lead my team effectively. I have worked in different places with different teams. I am a tolerant person. However, at the same time, I also have my own stance. We'll reach consensus and see how to implement. I want concerted effort within the team. We do not depend on one person. An individual capacity is limited. So if you only look for promises from me, that is not really useful. But what I can say is I am confident that I can lead my team effectively, and I believe that I have the ability to lead my team because I am good at communicating with people. Also, I am confident. I am tolerant. Thank you. Any more questions? One last question. One last question. I'm from London, Mui Tai. At various consultation sessions, as you run the election, you said the next 2-3 years is going to be a golden time for construction industry because construction, public project, and these are always like kind of black hole that suck in public funds. Constantly enforcing budgets, constantly increased budget is the norm in public construction project. So how are you going to respond to this public opinion? Also, when a government launches a project, it never say what the budget exactly is. I always say after the tendering procedure starts, we will tell you. We never say, for example, we just to renovate our own apartment, we need to have a budget. And now the government always wait till we start the tendering procedure, then we will tell you the budget. These problems do exist. It's a big piece of flesh, I can tell you, public construction. Yes, this problem exists and we have to face it. I come to public projects, public construction project. Whatever promise I make now, you will not believe. Give me some time. I am going to fulfill my promise. Because this is my strength as well. Overseeing construction projects. And I have met with members from the construction industry, and I have dozens of years of experience in this area. Talking about budget, that is simple. We have done it. The government had done that, has set a budget and start tendering procedure. However, also there are lots of controversy. So you work out a budget, you set a budget, then you follow this budget to do tendering procedure, and there's still lots of problems. Because look at budget and proposal, it's very delicate. Each project now they involve architect, designer, company. When they submit their proposal, they do have a budget. But if you follow the budget set by the bidders, there would be a problem. And then if you follow the estimation from the bidders to set your budget, then maybe this piece of meat will be even fatter. It will be even more lucrative. I think the current system here in Macau is relatively traditional. On the mainland, the practice is different. In the mainland, the practice was very transparent. For example, legislator Mak Soi Kun, you heard it very clear, and to have proper measurement. So there would be independent evaluator. Everything will be transparent. So every proposal, every item, how much the budget is, and all this should be transparent. And for the time being, the budget set in the proposal can be changed. Budget can be reinforced. All this will cause delay in our project. Yes, this ought to be changed. We ought to start from the source. We need to find out the cause if we have a proper procedure. So once we have approved a plan, then we do relevant QS. Then the QS, the checklist, should be given to the tenderers. So things will be transparent from the start. So we have all the items all fixed, then different bidders would fill in their budget. Everything should be transparent. For the time being, everything is done by the government. So the government would do the proposal, and also we criticize for lack of transparency. It would be useful if we got independent international company to assess. Now, lots of controversy has got to do with the lack of transparency in the tendering procedure. The current system is outdated. And also, we need to work on a system that can prevent errors in the initial proposal. The current system that we are using has been used for over 50 or 60 years. And that is not in line with our modern time, modern development. In Shanghai, they were doing it differently. In Shanghai, all the proposals from the start, they ought to be three-dimensional print, three-dimensional plan. So give me some time. This is something that I know well. As for guarantee, I will do my very best. Please trust me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members from the press. So today's Q&A session let's come to a conclusion. Thank you very much for coming.